hypothesis test will tell you whether or not a null hypothesis needs to be rejected. And so that's giving us this idea of, is our alternative a viable option? But even though it tells you whether or not to reject a false null hypothesis, it doesn't tell you how large the difference between the two populations is. So what we're going to do for that is create a confidence interval. Now a confidence interval is going to lean on the same step 1, step 2, population hypothesis condition that our hypothesis testing used. And so what we really need to focus in on is that step 3 and step 4, the calculations and conclusion. Here it is, the calculation for a confidence interval. Now typically you're going to see this in a T, and so that's the one we're going to focus in on. So a confidence interval for a t-test is, again, the differences of the means. So our overall goal is to see how much difference is there. So we're going to look at the difference of the two sample means and then apply some sort of margin of error. So that's our t star times the standard deviation of the difference. That's the standard deviation squared of the first population over its sample size plus the standard deviation squared of the second over its sample size. Throw some parentheses around that. Now t star can be found using table A. We're going to triangulate the degrees of freedom and the confidence level, whatever that percentage is. And we're going to use our table C to do that. And so we'll find that value. Now degrees of freedom, as you recall, degrees of freedom is n minus 1. But because we now have two samples, it's either n minus 1 or n2 minus 1, whichever one is smaller. So we are going to look at these. It's either the first sample size minus 1 or the second sample size minus 1. Pick the smallest. And that's going to give you the most conservative confidence interval we can. So of course, when we hit to that step 4, the context piece, we're going to say, I am whatever percent confident that the true difference between the means is, and then you'll have a range of values. So there it is, confidence interval.